Friends, in about a half an hour time, let us look at the gift taxation. Why only half an hour, sir? Because already I spent so much of the time earlier on the gift taxation when we discussed the topic of capital gains. So here it's a matter of a revision. What your section 56 subsection 2 clause 7a says, basically gifts are being categorized into three categories: cash gifts, immobile property gift, and mobile property gift. There is no problem with respect to the cash gift. There is no problem with respect to the immobile property. There you have to remember one thing: immovable property, only when it is transferred without consideration, only it amounts to gift and will be liable to the provisions of 56(2)(7). Whereas immovable property is given for inadequate consideration, this 56(2)(7) will not get invoked. That is, I have got a property whose fair market value is say 20 lakhs. Out of love and affection, I am giving it to the Krishna Reddy for 16 lakhs. Will this 4 lakhs of difference between the market value and the purchase consideration, will it be treated as a gift in his hands? No. That's not the idea here. If I, without taking anything, gifts that particular immobile property to him, then the provisions of 56(2)(7) need to be invoked. Third is, other than cash and other than immobile property, mobile property. There also you should be very clear on one point. Which mobile property? All mobile properties? No. There is a list of items which they said, in respect of these mobile properties, if these are being given either at free of cost or at a concessional rate, then the gift income will arise in the hands of the recipients. So generally where the student is making a mistake is, immobile property sold at a rate less than the, the market value or the stamp duty value. There also he is trying to invoke 56(2)(7). No. There we have already 50C. If a property is transferred, land or building is getting transferred for a consideration below the stamp duty valuation, very well up to the stamp duty valuation we can deem it as a deemed sale consideration, and the transferor is liable to pay the tax. So immobile properties, gift comes into play only when immobile properties are given without any consideration. With respect to the mobile properties, you should be very careful. Not all mobile properties this provision is applicable. It is applicable only with respect to the listed mobile properties, and if they are given at free of cost or at a concession, then the gift comes into play. So these points in sum you have to make notes. And as far as the cash gifts and all is concerned, there you said in case if the gift is received from relative or on the occasion of the marriage, then the provisions will not be invoked. These points you should be very clear, and you should understand what is a relative. Write down, friends, section 56 subsection 2, section 56 subsection 2, clause 7. Clause 7. Number 1, side heading gift of money. Side heading gift of money. Sum of the money received sum of the money received by a individual or HUF as a gift shall be taxable where it exceeds rupees 50,000, where it exceeds rupees 50,000, comma, whole of the aggregate value of such sum shall be taxable in the hands of the recipient. Of course, friends, exception you write, exception, where such a sum of money or any property is received from A, any relative, B, on the occasion of marriage, of the individual, or C, under a will or by way of inheritance or in contemplation of the death of the payer or in contemplation of death of the payer or from any trust or institution registered under section 12AA. In this context, friends, kindly listen. Who is a relative? Spouse of the individual, wife or the husband, brother or sister of the individual. There is no problem in understanding. Bhai or Bahan. Then brother or sister of the spouse of the individual. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Brother or sister of the spouse of the individual means brother-in-law or sister-in-law. Then brother or sister of the either of the parents of the individual. Brother or sister of the either of the parents of the individual. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? That is aunt, uncle, auntie and uncle, brother of the father, sister of the father, brother of the mother, sister of the mother. तेलुगु में क्या है? बाबाई पिन्नी, अत्तया मामया. Then linearly ascendant or descendant of the individual. Ascendant and descendant. Ascendant बोले तो grandfather, great grandfathers, son's son's son. This is how linearly ascendant and descendant. And any linearly ascendant or descendant of the spouse of such individual or spouses of the persons referred in the above. Of course, I am not asking you to write. But here what is stated is there is a lot of confusion whether relative as defined refers to the donor or the donee. Is it from the point of the donor you have to see or the donee you have to see? See, since individual that is referred in the definition is the SSE who receives the gift, relative should be referred to the donor with the SSE, or in other words the relationship is that of the donor to the donee. This relationship from whom to whom you have to look at. Donor to the donee you have to look at. If you look at from the donor to the donee, what is happening is nephew or niece are not linearly descendants. So in case if they make any gift to the uncle and aunt, such gifts shall be taxable in the hands of the uncle and aunt. Uncle and auntie gives to the niece or nephew, then it shall not be taxable. Whereas nephew or niece gives to uncle and auntie, then it will not come under the purview of the relative. Sometimes jokes like this will come in the exam. We don't go in depth to this extent, right? Write down the point, that is note, gift given by the niece oblique nephew to uncle or aunt, then such a gift shall be, taxable in the hands of, uncle or aunt. तो उसको कैसे दिमाग में रखना? बड़ों छोटों को देना, छोटों बड़ों को दिए तो बड़ों के हैंड्स पे वो टैक्स हो जाएगा. Then I move to the next issue of immovable property being gifted. Write down second. If one or more immovable property, is received by individual or HUF, without adequate consideration, or without consideration, not adequate, without consideration, and the stamp duty value, received, stamp duty value of the immovable property, received without consideration, exceeds 50,000, comma, the whole of the stamp duty value, of such immovable property, be taxable in the hands of the recipient. be taxable in the hands of the recipient. Here friends, please remember, you have to look at the stamp duty value of each immobile property. Not all immobile properties put together is not the point. Write down, note, the stamp duty value of each immobile property, the stamp duty value of each immobile property shall be separately be determined. Each immobile property shall be separately be determined. So not that all the assets put together. And please do remember, in case of immobile property, this 56(2) clause 7 comes into play only when it is given without any consideration. If it is given for inadequate consideration, 56(2) clause 7 will not be invoked, 50C will be invoked. Right, as a note. That is, in case if immobile property is transferred for inadequate consideration, 56(2) clause 7 is not applicable. 56(2) clause 7 is not applicable. Then friends, movable properties. I go to the movable properties. But what is movable property for the purpose of 56(2) clause 7? Write down. Movable property for the purpose of 56(2) clause 7. 56(2) clause 7. A. Shares and securities. B. Jewelry. C. Archaeological collection. Then drawings, paintings, sculpture, any work of art, billion. So here friends, try to understand, as far as this bullion, bullion, friends, as far as transfer of movable property, please do remember, unlike immobile property, in case of movable property, gift and 56(2) clause 7 comes into play both when it is given without consideration or for inadequate consideration. Right? So write down, movable properties received by individual or HUF without consideration oblique for inadequate consideration, then it would be taxable then it would be taxable if aggregate of fair market value of such properties exceeds rupees 50,000, exceeds rupees 50,000, then the difference between, then the whole of the difference between, then the whole of the difference between aggregate market value minus consideration shall be taxable, shall be taxable. Friends, we have 56(2) clause 7a. Of course, this is applicable to whom? Firms and companies. This is applicable to the firms and companies. In case if a firm or a company is going to receive shares for inadequate consideration or without consideration, then we will invoke the provisions of 56(2) clause 7a. So in case if the fair market value of such shares received by the firm or the company, the aggregate value is exceeding 50,000 rupees, and if such shares are received without consideration, then the whole of the aggregate value, and in case if it is received with consideration, if the difference between the aggregate of the fair market value and the consideration is exceeding 50,000, then the whole of such difference will be taxable in the hands of the firm or the company. Of course, I am not making you to write this, but please do remember 56 subsection 2 clause 7a, which comes into effect from 1/6/2010, says what? If a firm or a company is going to receive any shares for inadequate consideration or without consideration, then the aggregate of the fair market value of all such shares is exceeding 50,000 rupees, then whole of the aggregate value of such will become taxable, or where if it is received for inadequate consideration, then the whole of the fair market value minus that consideration is exceeding 50,000 rupees, then the whole of the difference should be taxable as a income from other source. Of course, here there is one example which is given. There are about 11 things. Let us discuss independently what is it, because now after half an hour of listening of gift taxation, probably my students might be very well versed with this particular provision. X is a 42 years person and he gives the following information. On 1/12/2011, he gets a gift of house A from his friend B, stamp duty value determined at 6 lakhs. So if B is not a relative, so it's a friend gives a gift, and that gift is an immobile property, and that is for without consideration, then 56(2) clause 7 will have an application, and happy well it becomes income from other sources, whole of the stamp duty value. Then on 3/12/2011, he gets a gift of house B from C, who is father-in-law of his elder brother. Stamp duty value is 40,000, however the current market value is 65,000. Stamp duty value is 40,000, whereas current market value is 65,000. But please do remember, we are more concerned with the stamp duty value when it comes to the point of the immovable property. Since it is not exceeding 50,000 rupees, nothing becomes a taxable is what the point. So don't get confused. You should be very clear with the provision. Here relative father-in-law of the elder brother is not a relative. X purchased a second-hand car of 70,000 from D. Market value is however 3 lakhs. It is for inadequate consideration. It's a movable property, but movable property not as defined in the law. Because movable property we have got only list. Already I made you to write. Shares, jewelry, drawings, paintings, archaeological collection, work of an art. In that list this car is not there. So not liable for 56(2) clause 7. Then X purchased an work of art for 5 lakhs. Fair market value is 5,30,000. Then the difference between 5,30,000 and 5 lakhs is how much? 30,000. And work of art is coming under the movable. In case of the movable property, what we have studied. In case of the movable property, what is stated is movable property received by an individual or HUF for inadequate consideration shall not be taxable if the aggregate value of such movable properties does not exceed 50,000. Where the aggregate fair value of movable property received exceeds the aggregate consideration by 50,000 rupees, the whole of the difference shall be taxable. Here the difference between the market value and the consideration which he has paid. Market value is how much, dosto? Is 7,25,000 and purchase is made for what? 7 lakhs. The difference is not exceeding 50,000. So 56(2) clause 7 will not get invoked. On 21/12/2011, X purchased a painting of 4 lakhs from G, who is the brother of Mrs. X. Fair market value is 7 lakhs. Relative. Wife's brother. Is he a relative? If the definition says and your understanding says like that, I don't have any objection whatsoever, but only thing, let me read who is a relative. Brother or sister of the individual, brother or sister of the spouse of the individual. So that means what? From such a brother of the wife of the individual, you are purchasing something, then it comes into the definition of the relative. Then X purchases a commercial property for 20 lakhs from H. Fair market value is 90 lakhs. It's case of a purchase. It's not without consideration. There is a consideration and it is an immobile property. Once for a consideration which happens to be inadequate consideration, if purchase is made, 56(2) clause 7 will not get invoked as a point. X gets a gift check of 1 lakh from his friend L on his birthday. Only on marriage occasions it is not taxable, otherwise birthday occasions, yes. Whole of the amount is going to become taxable. X contributes 10,000 in public provident fund account of his dependent mother. PPF contributions, will it qualify for ATC? The answer is, if it is paid in the name of the dependent mother, no. Only SSC for himself or for his spouse or the children. Not there, the mother is there. So these are few things which I would like to give you. With that we completed what is it? Gift taxation. Now quickly few of the case laws relating to the interest income. Point of interest here is, I am borrowing the money and investing in securities. Then against the interest income from security, whatever the interest on the borrowings I can very well reduce. But I have got an FD, fixed deposit. I have taken a loan against that FD. Then whatever the interest I am paying on the loan against the FD will not be allowed to be reduced from the interest income from that particular fixed deposit. C, company made a public issue and received the money, but that money immediately it is not able to employ in the business. So it took some bank deposits. Then if it is going to receive the interest income, will it be taxable under the head profits and gains from business and profession, or will it be taxable under the head income from other sources? The answer is it gets taxed under the head income from other sources. Who said so? Madhya Pradesh High Court in case of Madhya Pradesh State Industrial Corporation. Then friends, there is a Bombay High Court judgment which says interest earned by the SC by investing surplus money received in a public issue in bank deposits for a short period shall be accessible as income from other sources as interest is earned by the SC from a short-term investment. So in any case, what we say, interest from money deposited for a short term, there it is to be taxed under the head income from other sources. See, surplus money not required for the business, if it is kept in the short term deposits of the bank, then such interest will be taxed under the head income from other sources. Famous case Bokaro Steels Limited. So write down this one point, that is surplus money not required for the business, surplus money not required for the business was kept in short term deposits, was kept in short term deposits. Then interest on deposits, then interest on the deposits was held to be the income, was held to be the income from other sources. See, this is Bokaro Steels. In Tuticorin Alkali Chemicals Limited Supreme Court judgment, what is the judgment of Tuticorin Alkali Limited? See, prior to the commencement of the business, SSC borrowed the money, and this money he borrowed for setting up of the factory, and it is getting delayed to set up the factory. So meantime he deposited this particular money in a bank and earned the interest. Will that interest becomes taxable under the head income from other sources, or it goes to reduce the cost of that particular factory? Here the Supreme Court says it is not going to reduce, it should be offered as income from other sources. Not even this particular interest will go to against this interest, that interest on borrowings also cannot be reduced. See, with a sole intention to make investment, if I borrow the money, whatever the interest on that borrowing will be allowed to be reduced against the interest income. Here borrowing is not made for the purpose of investment. Borrowing is made for laying down factory. Because there is a delay, you are investing this money in the bank, then the interest income, against that interest income, this interest which you are paying on borrowings will not be allowed as a deduction. This interest independently should be taken to the income from other sources. That interest should be capitalized to the cost of that particular factory. So write down the point, that is interest earned from the money, borrowed for purchase of plant and machinery and kept in short-term deposits shall be taxable as income from other sources. Before I close this particular topic, let me tell you 57 clause 3, similar to section 37(1) says what? That is, fundamentally any expenditure to be allowed, it must not be a personal expenditure, it must not be a capital expenditure, it must be wholly and exclusively incurred for the purpose of making such earnings, and there must be a clear nexus between the expenditure and the income, then only it will be allowed. There is a company, friends. After the complete activities are over, we have to liquidate that particular company. But it took some 7 or 8 months to liquidate the company. Till such time, whatever the money is there that we have deposited and we are earning the interest income. Will the salaries paid to the employees will be allowed as deduction? The answer is yes. Because unless the company is there, the question of administering of it does not arise. Employee should be necessarily be there. So this expenditure will be well allowed against that interest income of that particular company. And instances where expenses are not allowed, interest paid for short payment of the advance tax. There is a short payment of advance tax, you are paying interest, such interest of 234B and C will not be allowed to be deducted. Interest paid on money borrowed for personal purpose cannot be allowed to be deducted. Interest paid for the amounts borrowed to pay the income tax and wealth tax also will not be allowed to be deducted. So these are all the different issues that you have to keep it in your mind, and we will check our understanding of the income from other sources from the examination point of view, what it is. So we will take up the discussion on previously tested questions in the CA final examination.